I know. So you self-published your first novel a little bit ago. Um, did you have a determination to self-publish? Did you consider working with a traditional publisher? How did that experience go? Because I know that's, we write the book and then that's the next thought. Like, what do I do with it?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I have a friend in Maryland. Her name is Heidi. She's a fantastic writer. She writes mysteries, and she writes also sci-fi. She wrote a series of books about 20 years ago,
Mm.
um, and it was about a young girl that has some kind of um, psychic abilities that uses them to solve mysteries. And I read two of her books, and they were fantastic.
Mm.
She went with a she went with a couple of different publishers. They made her write and rewrite and rewrite and rewrite and rewrite for 10 years. They made her rewrite things because when some editor left the company, they gave it to another editor who wanted to go in a different direction. So
Oh,
I was appalled. And I said, you know what? I am not doing that. Um, Especially because the books that I write are about my experiences, and no editor is going to be able to tell me what my experiences are. Really, because these are
yeah.
true paranormal. So I learned from Heidi, and I published my first book, self-published my first book. I used Create Space, um, and it's now been bought by Amazon. And interestingly enough, I I went back to Heidi and after I published my third book, and I said, "Look, you need to publish these books." So she's published several of her books since then, self-published,
Okay.
and people enjoy them. So, um, you know, you only if you know somebody, you may be lucky enough to get a publisher. Um, I don't know anybody, and that didn't stop me. I just didn't care, really. And it's all self-promotion. So, and I'm happy to say that all of this self-promotion and everything I mentioned there about press packages have enabled me to build enough of an audience that my last five books went to number one on Amazon. And as a self-published little unknown guy,
Yeah.
that's, to me, that's like dizzying, really, to think of that. I'm so humbled by that. Um,
Yeah. That's incredible. Congratulations. Incredible.
well, thank you. I wish it translated to like, $1 million, but it doesn't.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be nice, right?
It would be nice.
Um, yeah, so with self-publishing, definitely, but even traditional publishing, I saw online someone who promotes a lot of LGBTQ books,
Mhm.
um, and they love doing it, but they also were writing their own book.
Hmm.
And one of the most heartbreaking posts that I read was that um, they submitted their work to an editor and were told they have to rewrite the whole thing.
Yeah.
Um, and they took that advice and postponed a year of their life to do that and then send it off again to the same person. Um, as someone who has, you know, worked through workshops with authors, has helped authors as an editor,
Hmm.
um, if I were to ever say, you need to rewrite this whole thing, well, I would never. I would say instead, I don't think I'm the right person to maybe help you with this novel.
Hmm.
Um, because at that point, I feel like it's maybe not an issue with the writer, but maybe an issue with the editor. So traditional publishing, yes, we can see there is a lot of different steps. It takes a lot more time
Hmm.
with very timely works. Like I consider mine to be pretty timely. I wanted it to get out there. I
Hmm.
wanted it to speak to a certain need in our community and society that I saw. And I'm glad that you had the confidence enough to take on the work of being the editor, being the publisher, being the marketer. It's not an easy task, but it's the work. If you write to a message and you want to connect with that audience, which, every writer should, if you're writing to an audience, um, don't be afraid to go for it and trust yourself, I would say. Because in
Thanks.
today's age, consumers and readers want like to know you.
Mhm.
We're in a very creator-based society where people want it almost like an individual connection with the people they idolize and or the people that bring them joy and entertainment. And I found social media does offer a great experience for that, whereas in the past, it was definitely more difficult. Um, but it does bring a lot more pressure too, that you've spoken to a little bit, because it's work. It's not easy.
Yeah, it's labor intensive. And you have to be creative. So
Yeah.
so there's a difference between writing a true story and a work of fiction. Um, I think writing fiction is much more difficult than writing true paranormal. I mean, for me,
Okay.
because it's my experiences. So,
Yeah.
whatever experience I just put down on paper. But for anyone who writes fiction, that takes an awful lot of planning. That you have to have a really good memory about your characters, and you could explain how you wrote your novel and how you had to identify your characters and their qualities and their histories and so forth. I couldn't do that. Um,
Yeah.
takes a
Yeah.
special person to do that, I think.
Oh, well, it takes a special person to be able to have the experiences you've had. Definitely.
Uh, I
Um,
I was born with this superpower, so
yeah.
it just came to me.
Now, too, with that, because I think a big topic on a panel I was on recently was um, the idea and concept and the permission system that an author allows themselves to, how they put it, like steal. Um, and if it's your story or not your story to tell.
Mhm.
So your books portray your experiences. So yes, they're your story, but I guess they would say maybe um the experience of kind of discovering these spirits and ghosts and stories and lives, um, but maybe those stories are not yours to tell. Do you kind of Are you conscious of that when you're writing? And on the other side of that, thinking about the past and how we think about maybe family members or people that might inspire characters, um, do you kind of like revisit connections and or kind of discover a little bit more about these people and their stories through the writing process?
I actually do some research on the any earthbound ghosts that I encountered because I want to know, I want to prove that they're real people and that
Mm.
they lived. So you'll find that in quite a number of my books, especially the ghosts on a medium's vacation ones. Um,
Mm.
but to address the other part about that your question there, um, I when I first published my Pets in the Afterlife one book, there were no other books available on Amazon about how pets communicate from the afterlife. It was 2013 or 2012. Within a year, there were 25 or 30 books mimicking my concept of how pets communicate from the afterlife. And these people, whom I have no idea who they are, uh, they wrote these books. They got big publishers behind them with big money. Those books,
Oh,
anytime you go on Amazon and you type in pets in the afterlife, their books come up first, even though my book hit number one. It was the first one out there. It's got science in it, which theirs do not. Um, and has personal experiences, my personal experiences, which theirs do not. So because they were fortunate enough to find a big publisher, and they may or may not have seen mine. I have no idea, but they have gained a very popular book. So yes, people can basically steal your idea or um, take your concept and try to make it their own. Um, so that's something to be aware of. Frankly, to be honest with you, I was really frustrated because
Yeah.
these were my experiences, and it was blatantly obvious to me that within the year people had found that book, and they thought, oh yeah, I could make a lot of money off of this. So like, all right, well, as I don't care as long as any books bring grieving pet parents some comfort. That's that's why I wrote that series of books. Um, but yeah, so people can steal your concept, and trust
That is another level of stealing that. Yes.
me. Yeah, yeah.
That seems very more yeah, off limits, definitely. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry you had to deal with that.
Well, you
Um,
can't copyright everything. You can't copyright a
yeah,
concept or a genre. And I had no idea that this would become a genre. I wrote that book because my puppy died. He was killed by a car, and he
mm,
taught me how animals communicate from the afterlife. So that was my story. Um,
yeah,
but the other books that I've looked at and I've read, and I have read some of them, they have no personal experiences in them. And I'm like, okay, well, they're just using stories from other people. Um,
yeah,
so the thing is no matter what happens with your books, just be proud of what you wrote. I mean, I'm very proud of what I wrote. As, and you and keep going, because once I started talking to people about it, that's one thing that touches your heart. People can identify with your characters, with their mission, with their tragedies, with their successes. So keep going. And that I've now published my fourth Pets in the Afterlife book, and people are begging me for another one, which, by the way, I've already written, but I'm putting it off for a couple of years because
Ah,
I have 8 books in the queue. So
oh my gosh,
yeah,
retirement is busy for you.
it's a full-time job.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And you know that if so, coming from someone who has had a very fruitful career, um, reflecting on myself also who has had a number of different paths. Um, but I've always also worked on the writing. And for the last 10 years at plus, you've been working on the writing. And if it is a goal of any of our viewers, to be maybe a full-time writer one day,
Mhm.
along with all of the struggles and successes and good feelings that it does bring, um, keep working at it. If you keep working at it just like anything else, and you connect with the right people, you get outside your comfort zone a little bit, it will start to happen, and you'll start moving in the right direction. Um, but of course, writing is the primary. So, and then the lived experiences too. Your books are very full of your lived experiences. My series is started out inspired by lived experiences, even if they're not completely uh, lived by me, the fictionalized, but still, um, you and everything that you learn, you experience is going to bleed into the pages and make these worlds feel more rich, whether they're fantastical or real life, or even in very paranormal and spirit-filled environments. Or even if you're trying to escape on vacation and you just can't escape.
Yeah. Um, my I've been fortunate enough to have a lot of support, and I have a younger brother who said to me, and he quoted somebody, "Be positive, determined, and optimistic, and you can do anything." I've been fortunate. And I will tell you that I have roped my husband into being my editor for the last like 5 or 6 books. So, um, he says, "Look, if I have to go with you in public, I need to make sure those books are good."
That is a, I love that he said that. That's incredible. Yeah, our partners are sometimes our biggest critics, and it makes us all the better for it sometimes. But also our biggest supports too.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. You're with the right guy that that says, "Look, I love you, but you need to rewrite this part." And what were you thinking? So
Yeah. That's awesome. So now with the editing, do you kind of keep it in-house like that between the two of you? Do you use any outside editors? How does that work?
oh, good question. Um, well, it depends on the book.
Yeah.
So with the Pets in the Afterlife series, what I do is once I finish the book, I reread it again. I put it down, go to another one, then I reread it from start to finish, and I edit myself, um, and then I do it a third time,
Mhm.
and then I will ask, my husband or a friend to read through it. When it comes to the historic ones, like Ghosts of England on a Medium's Vacation, um, when Ghosts of Ireland, I contacted a woman who has become a friend of mine, Anne Marie Clark from Across the Pond Vacations. And I said, would you like to edit this book for me? Because, you plan travel for people in England and Ireland. And she said, yes. And she did. She was fantastic. And
Yeah.
my husband did both too, because he was on both trips with me. So don't be afraid to ask somebody to edit your book, especially someone who is who understands the topic.
Yeah. Yeah. And that is a big consideration too, for authors, but also for editors. On the author side, if you're looking for an editor and maybe you don't have that support, or maybe you don't feel confident in your ability to kind of step outside your work and find those mistakes or inconsistencies, finding someone who is knowledgeable on the topic is one of the things we as a press recommend, and would try to find experts for authors in specific genres, um, to have them edited by people who are knowledgeable of the genre. Um, Also recommend it for authors who are, if you're looking to write a YA fantasy, you should be reading a wide breadth of YA fantasies so that you can know what the audience is looking to expect. You've kind of been able to garner your own audience, and it seems like they are returning for multiple books. Um, so you kind of dictate kind of what to expect. Uh, but even I'm sure you, with the other books that you read, you kind of reflect on those and have a little bit of like storytelling structure um in your books that make it maybe not seem so kind of like reporting type.
Yeah, it's definitely not reporting. So
Yeah.
yeah, so that's a great point. So when I was part of the Inspired Ghost Tracking group, it was my job to write all of the reports about the investigation. So it was easy for me to take those reports and turn them into a story. Like when we came to a property, we decided to walk around the house to see what our feelings were and so forth, instead of matter of fact stuff, because it's so much, it's more, you have to get the reader involved in it and get them to visualize exactly what's happening. So that was one part that I thought was really important. um, One thing that you mentioned earlier was about my helping other people with their books,
Yeah.
and I wanted to just touch on that for a second. So my friend Josie Naclerio. She is a romance thriller writer. She writes straight uh, romances,
Yeah.
and she writes about the Italian police force. And she and I met at a Dachshund festival, and we talked about books, and so she started sending me her books so that I could edit them for her. So I would do that, and of course I had no trouble enjoying her covers because they're all muscular, beefy men, shirtless men. So I was like, yeah. um, but so I've been doing that with her now for years. And here's a woman who is a self-published author. Um, she got the inspiration for these. She's also Italian, um, and she's a fantastic storyteller. And she she just needed some she wanted some assistance. And I told her, I said, you are the one of the best storytellers I have ever read out of all the books I've read. So I've enjoyed helping her, and I still do, and we're best friends. Um, there was another woman that I met through being in the paranormal group, and this was a woman who was a paranormal investigator, and she had compiled all these articles about hauntings, and she wanted to publish them. Now, when you publish articles, you have you have to credit everybody, and Amazon will not publish they will not put it on Kindle
Hmm.
because it's pre-published things, even though you credit everything.
Right.
She was able to publish the book. I actually formatted the whole thing for her and edited the whole thing for her and helped her publish it. And um, that was really important to me, even though I didn't know her. Um, she passed from cancer 3 months after her book debuted and her book signing. And that was her lifelong dream. And it took that long to make it happen. And what the manager of the Inspired Ghost Tracking Group came to me and she said, can you help her publish? And I'm like, yeah, absolutely. So the point here is you never know what someone else is going through. And if they have a dream of publishing a book, help them in any way you can.
Yeah. Yeah. That is part of the drive that led us to start Four Elements Press. Because, not everyone has the time, and life is a crazy beast that has many different seasons. And sometimes in a world of monopolies and a lot of gatekeeping and pay this fee, pay this fee, pay this fee, to get to the next steps sometimes doesn't work for everybody. And having that ability to change someone's life, especially when kind of it's their last parts of life,
Mhm.
is incredible. Um, Everyone, check out these works. Uh, Rob is a great, great author. His experiences are incredible.
Oh gosh,
Um,
you're overselling me.
no, yeah, what
You're
no,
very
what you
kind.
do is important, and we're happy to have you here. Um, for Four Elements Press, we are looking to help writers at all stages, whether it's in publishing, whether it's in editing. If you have questions about writing, if you're looking for resources, that's what we're here to do. And um, for however long you want to work with us, even to just be featured on our directory of authors where Rob will be, or in our LGBTQ authors series for an interview like this, and to also get in front of people you might not have been able to reach prior, and then for them to find you and to be a change in their life as well. I want to turn it over to you again. We are getting close to the end here,
Mhm.
but I wanted to see if you have any messages for young writers out there who might be struggling believing in themselves as a writer, in a career or future as a writer, and then maybe even if you have anything specific to say to the LGBTQ community.
Sure. So first of all, I wish that Four Elements Press was around when I published my first book because I would have come to you. Um,
Thank you.
that would have been incredibly comforting, and knowing that you offer all of these things to help authors and inspire them to do their works. I definitely could have used you when I started out. So I really appreciate what you're doing. Um, as for young authors, everybody has a story in their mind or in their heart. The first thing I would suggest is writing a journal, keeping a journal. If you don't keep a journal, go online, do a blog, an online blog. Um, I will tell you that I do personal blogs as well as the book blogs. And the personal blogs, like when I went on vacation, and those became foundational parts for my Ghost and the Medium's vacation book. So journaling, blogging, those things can add to your book. Um, the second thing is I would really recommend that everybody read different genres of books. Like I said, I read my friend Jackie's thrillers, straight romances, and they're fantastic. Had I not met her, I never would have read a straight romance, likely. Um, and and I read all kinds of things. And that's really important because it gives you different aspects of how to tell different stories. The other thing is find somebody that will stand by you and encourage you. Even if you write a short story first, try that. Um, like I said, we all have a story, and your story is worth telling.
Yeah. I love the little shout out to the short story too, because that was foundational for me as a writer, and even just thinking about how do I be a storyteller. The short story format teaches you, forces you almost to kind of be conscious of the storytelling structure and the storytelling process, and then in reading it, because they're much shorter and the stakes should be a lot more clear. Um, to kind of go back and read those to make sure, the stakes are building, it's becoming more and more intense. You want to keep reading, keep reading, keep reading. Um, to learn those fundamentals is invaluable. So thank you for touching on that as well. Um, now I know, I don't know. Did you want to touch on a little bit about your upcoming work with Monique too soon? Or is it too soon?
I love it. I love puns. Sure. So Monique Too Soon, the only paranormal drag queen, and I just published a book, Haunting of Emery Estate, based on an investigation we did last summer. That was crazy. So when we did a book signing at a local haunted, what was a former library, now haunted. Um, we had a public investigation and we went through there and we ran into other ghosts. So this has become the next book. And
Mhm.
um, I, I'm already probably two-thirds of the way through it. That's going to come out next January.
Yeah, incredible. And we're going to be looking to have Monique too soon on here for the LGBTQ author series, and maybe even have you back to maybe even talk about the co-writing experience. If we could have you both, that would be incredible. Um, and then I will post your website links with the article and with the video. Did you want to just let everyone know where they can find you, under what name, and then aside from Four Elements Press, where you'll be featured?
Yes. So they can find me at robgutro.com, Gutro, or petspirits.com because people can't remember my last name sometimes. So it makes it very easy. And that's another thing too, is that make sure your website is short and memorable. Um, and then if they go to my website, they can also put my name in Amazon. And then my website has all the social media links. So.
Incredible. Thank you so much, Rob, for sharing your experiences with us. Everyone watching, check out the LGBTQ authors series. Check out fourelementspress.com, where we'll have Rob featured, and along with our other works and articles. Thank you so much for watching, and have a great day. Take care.